Welcome to Beyond the Walls, a podcast for women ready to break barriers and step boldly into their purpose. I'm Kylie, your coach and guide for overcoming fear, silencing self-doubt, and building a life of courage and connection. Whether faith is your anchor or you're still trying to figure it out, this is a space for growth, authenticity, and transformation. Subscribe now and let's start building the courage to be seen, heard, and unstoppable. This is Beyond the Walls, where your purpose begins. If hiding were a job, most of us would be overqualified. What do you think about that? Do you define yourself as somebody who hides, who plays it small, who avoids conflict? Maybe you're stuck in perfectionism or feeling like you're just trying to fake it till you make it. Well, I'm going to be talking about is how can we transition into somebody who is not hiding any longer, but can securely show up in honesty. If you're anything like me, I think what I feel most when I'm hiding is a fake. I feel like a phony and a hypocrite. I feel like I'm not being really true to myself or to other people. I don't feel known or seen. I feel like it makes it even harder to show up authentic when I've spent all of this time, because what if they're only in a relationship with me because I've been playing this part? And if I start showing up differently, then I might really be rejected. Have you been hiding and presenting this different kind of a front for yourself for so long that you feel stuck, that you can't even be honest anymore? Well, I want to talk that through with you. And over these 4 episodes, we're going to kind of break down how do we go from just starting to recognize it to making some different choices, baby stepping our way to be able to walk into a room feeling confident and secure. So if that sounds good to you, then hang tight with me, stay with me, make sure that you're following this so you're alerted when the next episode comes out, because you're not going to want to miss it. So today I want to talk about just why do we hide? What even happens? How did this even begin? And I want you to realize, if you are not already sure and you feel like this is how it's always been, this is a perfect place to just get curious, to just start spending time and thinking like, boy, what are some key memories that I have from my childhood or different experiences or my family dynamic or my school career? What were some of those embarrassing moments, right? I think of you know how people always say that people are terrified about public speaking? And I think, gosh, could it have all started from that one time when you were in first grade and you got up and said something stupid and everybody laughed at you, or maybe you got in trouble? And it's those kinds of crazy moments that happen when we are little and too young to make lifelong decisions. But that's really where it starts. Those key moments that we didn't realize is the reason why we're still holding ourselves hostage in our everyday lives now. It might be one of those situations. And I love so much helping women in my coaching to be able to recognize it, to see it, and have the opportunity to re-choose it, recreate it, make a decision. Like, as for me and my life today, what happened way back when is no longer applicable today. I can create something completely different than what I've been showing up as. And I want you to walk away from this episode feeling so clear in that. It may still feel daunting. It may still feel unbelievable, but could you just choose to believe that it's possible? That is my ask for you right now. Okay. So if we're thinking about those kind of situations, right, trying to get comfortable with that idea of like, what could it have been way back when? What were those instances? And something might have popped up for you right now. And I think, awesome. Have that in your mind as we go through this episode. And if nothing's coming up right now, then that's the place to just keep staying curious, keep listening to me here. But this week, when you're done listening to this episode, think about just being open to seeing what could show up for you. So I remember as a kid, I had an older brother, so not to like throw him under the bus, but He was my memory, I guess I would say. He certainly was not a bad kid, but I do remember there being a few crucial moments when he was in big trouble. And I hated it when he got in big trouble. And I do know for a fact that something that I took on as my identity, my purpose in life, was to just not be in trouble like he does. Let me avoid getting yelled at. Let me avoid getting disciplined. Let me avoid getting corrected. And gosh, I didn't have words for that as a kid. My parents certainly didn't have words for that when I was growing up. Like, if they didn't know that that's what I was doing, they didn't know how to help me with that or not help me with that, right? And so as a grown up now and being able to look back on that time and that kind of a mindset, I think it's really important for each of us. A great way to move forward is to lower the significance of all of that, right? I have no guilt, no blame. Like, I have no barriers. I'm not blaming my brother for how he was and the way that I chose to show up and the way that he chose to show up. I'm not blaming my parents. I'm not upset with my parents. Like, there's no trauma about it. I can clearly say, like, wow, here's what my parents did or didn't know what was going on. They were doing their very best. My brother had his own things going on. He's his own person. He has his own character, his own personality. He has his own experience on what his childhood was like. I am not holding other people responsible, or honestly, even me as a kid. Like, my 7-year-old self is not responsible for how I'm going to show up today. I hope you can hear that kind of the freedom to let that go, the freedom to forgive. Like, it's not even an issue that needs forgiveness in my mind, right? But that's probably because I've spent years repairing, minding my mind, renewing my thoughts, taking personal responsibility and ownership for my life. And so when I'm sharing that story with you, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how I showed up because this is what my brother was like, and this is the environment that I saw, and I just let me live to avoid that. If you are still holding on to, if that still has an emotional pull for you, it might bring up bitterness and resentment and blame and victimhood. I want you to know there is absolutely nothing wrong that that's what's happening. Being brave enough, courageous enough to acknowledge that and to be willing to try on and get curious and say, boy, what else could be possible? Like, what could life be like if I healed through that? That is the best place to be, right? And maybe you've dismissed it so much and minimized it, it doesn't bring up hard emotions or those feelings of resentment and that frustration. And so it's been really easy also for you to feel like, well, that has nothing to do with what I'm doing today. But I would like to ask you to reconsider that it might have a lot to do with what's happening with you today. And by being able to go back and clean that up in the past to make sure, am I holding on to something? Is it still defining me in a negative way? Am I still feeling responsible for something that I didn't need to be responsible for? Am I still holding somebody else responsible for something that they didn't need to be held responsible for? That is the place I want you to get curious about and to start to uncover what else could be possible. Because it's those kind of moments, right, that create these memories for us, these experiences. There are reasons, our justification for hiding today. They show up in things for us today like fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being too much or not enough, right? Like, I think that's specifically my fear back then. I definitely wanted to avoid conflict. I definitely didn't want to be too much. My interpretation would definitely be that whatever my brother was doing, that as an adult now, as a parent to children, he was being a completely normal child, right? Like, he wasn't like a crazy kid that was doing like violent and major trauma and abuse, right? So it was a very normal, typical childhood. I would say that, right? And so I want you to consider and make sure that you are putting that into its proper place. They all need their proper accurate. And there's no comparing or competing. So honestly, you have to recognize your own childhood and figure out, how are you labeling your childhood and your experience and those relationships and the people that were around you during that time? And that's the thing to do now, right? As a grown up, as an adult, to look back and think, gosh, what was life like for them? What was really going on for these other people? Like, if it wasn't only through my lens as that 5-year-old, as that 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, what else was going on for those other people? How old were they at the time? Right? I love thinking that through now of like, okay, when I was 5, my mom was X, Y, and Z, right? Like, how old was my mom? And then how old am I right now, to think through, like, get into my mom's shoes at that age, right? And we can use that both ways. Like, gosh, look how much I've grown. I've broken generational trauma because I am nothing like my mom at that age, right? That might be something you're thinking or feeling. Or you can be like, wow, I have so much more compassion and understanding for why my mom was stressed out when I was 5, because I know how stressed out I am right now. I hope that you're finding peace and resolve in what I'm sharing with you right now. So when we're looking at those reasons as to why we might be hiding now, and if we're attaching historical context to it, right? Again, those are our reasons, our rationale as to why we have found a justification that we need to show up this way. We need to protect something. We need to not be too much for fear of what it's going to mean on the outside, right? We have somehow normalized hiding for our safety. But now I want you to consider how it's actually showing up is a form of self-betrayal. What it's actually creating for you now is not true safety, but instead it's got this aftertaste of resentment and that hypocrisy, that fakeness, the feeling like your true self is not even known by you, let alone the other people that matter to you in your life. And so I want you to think for yourself right now. I want you to think, where have you been hiding lately? What's something that you feel like you haven't been honest about, either with yourself or with someone else? One of the women in our group coaching that I've been doing, I have a 6-week series going on right now. And it was so beautiful because in this session, what came out for her was this awareness to realize, like, oh, I actually am tempted and I have been feeling very insecure, but I've avoided even acknowledging it for myself. I just overcompensate in these other areas and I just make up for it in this other thing. And right, like she was like, oh, I've been masking it and going through all of these hoops to avoid even just her own acknowledgement of the insecurity. We're not even talking about acknowledging it to another person yet, right? Just ourselves. And so it's those kind of spaces, right? Like maybe you haven't even been willing to quiet your mind enough, quiet your body enough to actually take a look and see what's really been going on and what's really bothering you. Oftentimes it's really clear to us what the action is or the inaction is, and we just get upset about it. And then we just spin our wheels of the reasons for the justifications, the things that we're familiar with. And it's those spaces, if we can go a little bit deeper to find out what's really at the root, what's really causing that, that's where we're going to be able to find the healing, the hope, even just the courage and the willingness to come out of it. Because if we don't know why we're hiding, we are never going to be able to stop hiding. That just feels like this vague, scary, overwhelming fog. But when we can take that time to go one step further with it, we might be able to discover that, like, maybe it's not so scary on the other side. Like maybe I've been holding on to this situation. Like I think it's going to turn out like it turned out 10 years ago, 20 years ago. When you're talking to completely different people, you are a completely different person now, right? You're in a completely different environment. And if you're not for some reason, let's just say, oh my goodness, you still live at home and you still have your parents and your mom's never grown and your parents have never grown and everybody's still just treating you like you were this little child. Okay, there's other people in your life. Start in a safer relationship. Start practicing having conversations, testing out this theory on your safest people. See what they have to say about it, right? Because I would agree. You don't want to take on the biggest, ugliest, scariest beast right away, right? That's too much to start. But get yourself your little win. Start with that little step of what is it that I am hiding from? Why might I be hiding? What if it could be different? So I want you to think through that, right? Where have you been hiding? Where have you not been honest? And I want you to really name it this week. I want you to spend time journaling about it. Don't rush it because there's nothing to fix yet, right? Right now, it's just labeling it, just putting a name to it, getting really curious with it. Sit with it for a minute. Start by just being honest with yourself. Can you do that for me? Can you do that for you? So next week, we're going to talk about the masks that we wear. How else has it really actually been showing up, right? In the people pleasing, the perfectionism, and let's discover what it could take to actually take those things down. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. If you're resonating with this series, then I know that you would love coaching. We can dig deep into it in this personal, interactive, live way, wherever you're coming from. I work remotely, and I know that we can create an amazing breakthrough for you to be somebody who gets to show up honest, to show up authentic, to show up secure in who you are. And guess what? Still be loved on the other side, still have relationships on the other side, still have connection and meaning and purpose within yourself and in your relationships. I'm so excited for you. Thanks for joining me today. Can't wait to connect with you again next week. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Walls. If this episode inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend and leave a review. Your support helps more women step into their courage and purpose. Ready for more? Subscribe to the podcast and contact me. You can find me at beyondthewallspodcast.com. Reach out for coaching, more resources, and all the support you could need. Remember, breaking through the walls is just the beginning. Your best life is waiting.